Hey guys, Jay from the Vape People here. I am going to explain the problems with tanks on mechanical mods. First of all, there's two parts to this. First part being the tank itself and the problems within the tank using them on mechanical mods. The second part would be the mechanical mod side of it all. Most of the mechanical mods I would not recommend putting a tank on. 99% of the tanks I would never recommend putting on a mechanical mod, and I'm going to show you why you shouldn't be doing these things. We're going to start with your basic tank, and going by the most common one that we see in the newspapers, Aspire Atlantis tank. We're going to take it apart. I'm going to show you. But first, here we go. I'm going to explain some parts for this. It's your tank. Inside is a coil. This is your base. And the most important part, this is your 510 connection. This part here, the top part, that is the positive connection. This side part is negative. Positive, negative, positive, negative. If these two were to bridge, touch each other, while being touched on a battery, that is bad. You now have a short. Okay, now, let's go on to the mechanical part of it. One of the biggest problems you see with tanks on mechanical mods is hybrid tops. What's a hybrid top? This is a traditional mechanical mod with the pin inside of it. This is a standard mechanical mod. This mod is a hybrid top. Now you see the top there? You can see right through it. This would use the actual pin, the 510 pin, this part here, as your connection to the battery. Bear with me, this all comes together at the end. So this is just giving you bits and pieces of information as we work. Now, you take this part here, you screw it onto your atomizer, like so. So that piece sits, and you can see the 510 part now becomes your positive contact on the battery. And of course you would then just screw that onto your mod, and away you go. Here it is, the most common one that blows up in people's face, this similar setup right here. Tank, hybrid top mod. Now, I'm going to get into more details as to why this is not a good setup and why these explode all the time. First, we're going to talk about the tank and the coils. I'm going to take this apart and show you. Here it is. This is the base. This is the coil. I'm going to pull the coil out. We're going to talk about the base first. Here's the base. Your 510 pin, negative. If you look inside, you see the 510 pin inside there? It is floating. It is separated by a piece of rubber, some sort of a sealer. I can take my screwdriver and I can push it out, not very hard, just gently. And you see, it pops right out. I can push it back in with my finger. It is a floating pin, which means it can go in and out, in and out. It's not a fixed position. Now, here's the coil. The coil screws into here and then sets the pin. You see, it's pushed back out a bit. I pushed it in earlier and now it's pushed back out. The problem here lies with putting tanks on mech mods, not entirely this part. It does have a floating pin. It's the coil. What we have here is the positive side, negative side, and what's separating it is a piece of rubber. The biggest issue is, there we got channel locks. I'm not going to squeeze very hard, but what happens is, you see that pin going in and out? There's the issue. This coil, this pin here, sets the depth of this here. So if the coil is being squished in and out, that also means this part here is going in and out. So why is it a problem? If this part here is touching a battery, don't worry, I'm safe with this. You can see it's very close. If you were to screw it on tight, now we have a contact where positive and negative are touching the positive side of the battery. What will happen when you hit that switch? You have now shorted the battery out, positive and negative touching each other with no resistance, and the battery will then vent and explode. Pardon me, this is a rewrap. I rewrap my batteries if they start to look anywhere a little bit frayed. Battery safety is a big thing. But we're not talking about battery safety today. We're talking about tanks on mech mods. So back to the hybrid top. Now I just have to imagine this being inside the hybrid mech mod. This is what it's going to look like inside. Pull out that battery again. It's inside here. It's touching the positive side. Now if you crank this down tight, it's now going to touch both the negative. It's going to bridge the positive and negative together. This is the biggest problem with tanks and mech mods. It's just by design. We can't help it. Not until some company comes out with a fixed 510 pin inside there. Or adjustable. Something that you can pull that 510 pin out. Now, the second part of it. Not all mech mods are the same. I'm going to show you one. Let's see here. Mech mod. This one here. I'll take the top off so I can show you the inside. Before we do that, let's take a look at the pin on this. Take a look carefully. You see how wide this positive pin is inside here? And between the negative and positive, there is not a lot of tolerance there. There's not a lot that you can move to bridge those two. The other problem with mech mods we see is, see how wide that pin is in there? If this pin inside were to shift even a 0.5 millimeter, you will now bridge this and this together. The outside is the negative and the positive. That is not much tolerance. There's virtually no room for error with things like this. Although, if you have something like this, you see how small that is? Can you see the difference? This side here is quite a bit smaller than this one. I'm not saying it's safe to do it. I wouldn't recommend doing it, so don't do it. Back to the coils. Every coil on the market is the same. Positive pin, negative, and a rubber separator. Magnus coil. Atlantis coil. Crown coil. Rubber here. Kanger. Positive, negative, piece of rubber. All of them do the same thing. All of them. If you put it on something with a fixed 510 pin mod, they all will move. They will all squish down. Every single one of them. So do not put anything in with a fixed 510. That being said, again, this one here happens to have a floating 510 pin, and the only concern with this is how wide that pin is. Going to a wide 510 pin on this. There is virtually no room for error. Tanks are very good for regulated mods, and a regulated mod is something that a device like this, it can sense a short and it will shut off and will not fire if it shorts. That protects you, that protects the battery, protects everything, and keeps you safe. And that's my rant. Hope you've learned something today.